Hi everyone, this is Mary at the Reiki Place, and today I'm bringing you the next in my deep dive series, the throat chakra. And so without further ado, we'll just get right into it. So let's take a look then at Visuddha, the throat chakra. Visuddha means purification in the sense of cleansing or clearing. The throat chakra is the center of communication. It's about speaking your truth, standing in your truth, standing in your authentic light. But it's also about listening and allowing others to stand in their authentic light without judging them, accepting them just where they are because you wish them to accept you just where you are. The throat chakra will often be blocked when we can't communicate clearly with someone, but it will also be blocked in a more long-term way if we are hiding our true self, if we are becoming somebody else in order to fit society's preconceptions of what they want us to be instead of who we truly are. And here is the endocrine chart. No surprise here that the throat chakra connects with the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland is right around, if you put your hand to your neck and feel your Adam's apple, that's where the thyroid is. And then looking at the next slide, this is where the throat chakra is. So it's just a little bit below the thyroid. The thyroid is higher up on the neck, and the throat chakra is in that little divot there where your collarbone sits. The thyroid is important because it regulates metabolism, digestive function, and your muscles. And your heart is a muscle, so it regulates heart function to some degree there too. This is what it looks like. We talk about hyperthyroidism, which is your metabolism running too fast, and hypothyroidism, which is your metabolism running too slow. And I have a list of symptoms. People whose metabolism runs too fast tend to be nervous, irritable types, sometimes a little bit shaky and sometimes a little bit on the thin side. Whereas people whose metabolism runs too slow, not surprisingly, might be a little bit heavier, might be getting a lot of weight gain, or they might be having problems with their voice. Also, they might have, if they are female, they might have more frequent menstrual periods. And when your metabolism runs too slow, your body's not being efficient. So you can be chilly, you can be cold. The thing about thyroid issues is they are more common in women than in men. Men tend to have more heart issues, and I talked about that in the heart presentation, the heart chakra. So perhaps we should just stop for a moment and think about why that might be. Traditionally, women are the peacekeepers. I always say that, men are outward facing, they build the world, and women are inward facing, they build relationships. Women are very good at handling relationships, and many married men I know will refer to their wife as their social assistant, the keeper of the social calendar. The natural feminine female biology is to care about relationships. We are the mothers, the nurturers. And so it is our job to keep the peace, to smooth things over, to make sure other people in the family are served well. And therefore, we sometimes hide our needs. We sometimes push our needs down. I hope nobody takes offense to the word weaker sex. Women being the weaker sex traditionally have been more vulnerable and therefore must shut up and do as they are told. And in fact, I know I've had women in my practice come to me and say that, their mothers would say to them, why don't you just shut up and sit still and be happy? Like you can just be happy because somebody tells you to be. And they're not allowed to voice their insecurities. Women who have been abused, and the numbers there are staggering to me in my practice. When I realize that somebody has been abused, I'm just so amazed at how many women have gone through that kind of torture. And they can't talk about it. People don't believe them. They're threatened. They are threatened that if they say something bad will happen to somebody they love. And so women traditionally have had to shut up, and this is a cultural thing, and thank God it is beginning to change now. And with our greater awareness of things like this, things like the connection between who we are emotionally and what happens to us physically, can be very enlightening and very helpful for us. So now we come to the concepts: speaking your truth, listening with sincerity and without judgment, expressing your authentic self, walking your talk, speaking up for yourself, asking for what you need, walking with confidence. You can tell a person's confidence level very often just by the way they carry themselves, the way they walk. Is their head down? Are their shoulders stooped? Are they walking tall and straight, looking directly in front of them, projecting the energy of quiet confidence? Or do they look like they've been beaten up by the world, in which case they most often have? You will find that people become very defensive of their throat. So people who have throat blocks may walk with their chin down, as I said, and their shoulders hunched, protecting that neck area. They may wear lots of scarves or things around their neck, or they may be somebody who cannot tolerate things around the neck, and they can't wear turtlenecks, they have to have their collar open, don't want to wear a necktie, that kind of thing. We become who we need to be in order to survive this world, in order to be accepted, in order to be loved, to be liked. And there is an incredible amount of peer pressure and political correctness thrust upon us from the very moment we are born. The word we hear most frequently as we move into that phase of our childhood, toddlerhood, where we begin to walk, we begin to explore our environment, the word we hear the most is no. You can't do that. You can't touch that. That's going to break. You can't go there. You have to go here. You have to be strapped in. And all of these things are designed to protect us, but they have the result of blocking us off from our own exploratory nature, from our own creative nature, from our natural self-expression. And it gets worse when we get into school. A 5-year-old child, a 6-year-old child wants to run, they want to play, they want to yell with their friends and giggle and have fun. And they're not allowed to do those things. They have to sit still and wait for recess. And even when recess comes, they have rules. And so we are grown up. We are raised into an environment full of rules. Everywhere we go, there are rules. If you walk your dog on the trail, there are signs telling you what you can do and what you can't do and where you can go and where you can't go, and you must pick up your dog poop and you can't walk over there because that's a watershed or something. If you go to stay in a hotel, there are signs and rules, and you must do this and you must check out by this time or that time, and you can't check in before that time, and you must leave your towels on the floor, when you're done, and all of these rules. There are rules everywhere we go, everything we do. I invite you to just become aware as you're walking through your day to day. If you're outside of your own home, if you're at work, or if you're in a public place, how many signs there are telling you what you must do. And so this molds us, you see, into somebody who we are not naturally meant to be. And this is where all of our problems start. All of the indoctrinations that we are given as we grow up. So it leads to the suppression of some parts of ourselves in order to survive, in order to be loved and liked, in order to get good grades in school, and so on. We have to become someone else. And this is the culturally created self. The parts of us that we suppress, we can think of as the dormant self, the shadow self, the inner child, the broken inner child. We also suppress the parts of ourself we don't like, the parts of ourself we don't enjoy. And I don't mean to make light of this, and I was not a perfect mother, but I look at mothers raising their children now that I have this awareness and understanding, and I think, yeah, they're going to be on a therapist's couch one day, or on a reiki table, or a biofield tuning table, and they're going to be seeking treatment. And we're going to try and reintegrate those parts of themselves. And in fact, that's what shamanism is, soul retrieval. The soul retrieval process in shamanism has a lot to do with fixing or repairing, retrieving the inner child, the shadow self, and integrating that back into the personality. So one of the ways that you can do this is by being very accepting of yourself, of all of yourself, of the rebellious parts that want to push through and come forward, of the parts that you might think are ugly or unattractive, whether that's your physical self or your emotional self or your mental self, allowing all of you to belong and giving those parts of you space. And particularly anger. We are especially good at stuffing down our anger, but giving our anger space. Now, I'm not suggesting that you become angry in front of those around you, but allowing your anger to be within you, not suppressing the anger. Finding healthy outlets, healthy ways to channel that anger. Anger is actually a great stimulator. It's a great trigger, a great catalyst. And if you can recognize it and learn to harness the energy behind anger, you can become very creative, very productive. Along with the cultural indoctrinations in our society, there is fostered an element of competition. If you are in a sales and marketing role, you're encouraged to be competitive and ambitious. You are incentivized to meet goals. And this is true in many ways in our society. We also, as humans, are naturally competitive. That is our ego self. It is part of our ego's job to look after us and make sure that we thrive and survive. And so we can become very competitive. But this will stifle, if you are overly competitive, this will stifle the throat chakra, because competing means trying to become like somebody else or trying to do what somebody else is doing instead of doing what is unique to you. So we all come here on purpose, with a purpose, to fulfill our own personal life mission, not to fulfill somebody else's. And competition, can you see, has that edge to it that we're trying to do what other people are doing instead of doing what we're naturally impelled to do. Stifled creativity, which is the end result of everything we've been talking about, breaks out in other ways. It can lead to alcoholism, drug addiction, food addiction. But when harnessed successfully, it can lead to very great bursts of creativity. So I give the example here of Beethoven, who became deaf, which is related to the throat chakra. And when he couldn't hear, he moved into a world of vibration, of feeling, of sensing. And he produced some of his greatest works were written after he became deaf. So that's an example of creativity. I'm not sure he was altogether a happy person, but definitely he has left a lasting impression on the world through his creativity. So how do you become your authentic self? How do you do that? And how do you find the courage to do that? Your power, as we've looked at in the other videos in this series, starts in the solar plexus. It builds in the solar plexus. This is your center of power, your personal power, where you establish your right to be an individual, your individual sovereignty. And so taking that power, there is a confidence there in the solar plexus. When it's balanced, you become confident. So the first chakra to work on if you want to become your authentic self is the solar plexus, making sure that you have that power, that personal power, the confidence to do this. And then the power rises up into the heart chakra. Heart can be about courage and confidence. Solar plexus is about your innate capacity, what you know you can accomplish. And heart chakra confidence is more self-esteem, how you feel about yourself, how you love yourself. So you need both of those energies. The solar plexus, it rises up into the heart chakra, builds your courage and builds your confidence. And then the expression of you comes through throat chakra energies, where your highest wisdom governs your actions. Third eye, which we'll look at in a future video, is also about wisdom. But it starts with finding the courage to be who you really are, to say no to those people you need to say no to say yes to those things you've been resisting that you know you need to do because they move you out of your comfort zone. And then accepting who you really are. If you feel angry, accepting that you feel angry, acknowledging that you feel angry, acknowledging and accepting those parts of yourself you wish to reintegrate is the quickest way to get them to dissipate. So anger won't stay with you forever. If you allow anger to exist within you, it will dissipate because you've given it space. When it's suppressed, it's constantly looking for space. And this is true of any quality. If you don't like the way you look and you avoid looking in mirrors, go stand in front of a mirror and have a good hard look at yourself and see what other people see. And accept it because it's who you are. And if you deny it, it's still who you are, but now you're unhappier about it. And as you look at yourself, find those parts of yourself that you love. You know, maybe it's your fingernails or your hair, or you have cute little ears, or whatever it is about yourself. Find things to focus on that you love about the way you look. Are you different from other people? Do you feel different? Now, many of us feel this. This is, if all the people who felt different could get in a room together, the room would be packed, crowded, because most people feel that they are different in some way. But what we forget is that we are supposed to feel different because we are unique and we come to be unique. We don't come to be sheep, a member of the sheep family. We're here to put our mark on the world in some way, big or small. We're here to bring our uniqueness into the lives of those around us, to shine our light, not to stand in somebody else's light. So if you do feel different from other people, try and find the way to be happy about that, to find the joy in your differences. What do you bring that nobody else brings? Those are your best qualities. To express yourself. Express means to bring the feelings that are on the inside to the outside so they can be released. This is true of any feelings: grief, stress, trauma, pain, anger, frustration, you name it. If it's on the inside, it can be brought to the outside. When you reintegrate yourself to yourself, then you become free in a way. Let's take a look now at the throat chakra from another perspective. Here we're talking about solar plexus being survival mode energy, heart chakra being love, compassion, the energy of compassionate love, and the throat chakra being about the energy of wisdom, in particular, spiritual wisdom. We're going to look a little bit more at that. Here we're going to get into a little bit into the raw material. Now, I'm not an expert on the raw material. There are other people who are, so you can look for those. But I'm just noticing that in session 25 of the Law of One, Ra talks about fifth density being the density of light or wisdom. And here's an excerpt from session 42 about wisdom. The Law of One is a channeled work. It was channeled in the 80s. And it's a collection of 5 volumes that you can find on the internet. I'll link it below. So free information for you, or you can buy the books on the big bookseller stores. So I'll let you research the Law of One more if you're interested in this. But the way it worked is it's a channeled material. And the woman's name was Carla, the channel who went into channel. And then she was being questioned by some other people who lived and worked with her. And she was channeling this energy Ra. So the questioner said, in the last session, you made the statement that we, that is Ra, spent much time in the fifth density, balancing the intense compassion gained in fourth density. They're using this nomenclature of densities in the same way that I used them in the previous slide, the heart density being compassionate heart. He says, could you expand on this concept with respect to what we were just discussing? Ra says, the fourth density, as we have said, abounds in compassion. This compassion is folly when seen through the eyes of wisdom. It is the salvation of third density, but it creates a mismatch in the ultimate balance of the entity. So the entity is us. We are a mind, body, spirit complex. So we are an entity. And Ra is a collective that has become one. And Ra claims to be in sixth density, I believe. So they've lived the journey through third density, fourth density, and fifth density that we are now on. We are now on that journey from third to fourth to fifth, and they are giving us advice through this channel, Carla. He says it is the salvation of third density, but creates a mismatch in the ultimate balance of the entity. Thus, we, as a social memory complex of fourth density, had the tendency towards compassion, even to martyrdom, in aid of other selves. When Ra was making the journey from third density to fourth density, they went into martyrdom, which I believe many of us today are going into martyrdom. We are sacrificing the needs of ourselves in favor of the needs of others. A society well organized, when we reach the same level of spiritual wisdom as the Ra collective has reached, we will be balancing needs of self against needs of others. This is the spiritual wisdom of fifth density, that it's one thing to put everybody else first and yourself last, but that leads to emotional burnout, to mental breakdown. What works better is when you put the needs of yourself against the needs of the collective and bring balance to that. So sometimes you might be serving the collective, sometimes you might be serving the self, but you thoughtfully decided what is in the best interest of yourself and others before you do that. You don't just resort to doing only what's good for them, even when it's not good for you. And so many of us, as we're transitioning from third to fourth density, we're making that mistake. We're sacrificing our own needs and wants in favor of doing what everybody else is badgering us to do, making us feel like we ought to do, what we should do, instead of what we would rather do. So as we move more into spiritual wisdom, we learn to create that balance and put ourselves first. That's what Ra is saying in this session 42. Well, read the rest of it. When the fifth density harvest was achieved, we found that this vibratory level flaws could be seen in the efficacy of such unrelieved compassion. We spent much time space in contemplation of those ways of the Creator, which imbue love with wisdom. So he's saying after they reached fifth density, they were able to look back and see and evaluate and assess where they made those mistakes. Here are some affirmations we can do to strengthen the throat chakra. I have the right to ask for what I need. I'm patient with others. I'm at peace with myself and others. I speak up for myself. I listen to others, but I speak from the heart. I am my authentic self. I can express myself clearly and confidently. Here we can see the crystals, animals, and essential oils. So the throat chakra resonates to the color blue. It's more of a turquoise blue. Think of the blues that you see in the rainbow. Always when you're trying to figure out what color a chakra is, just go and check out the colors of the rainbow. And it's that beautiful, brilliant turquoise blue. And then when it gets into the darker blue, we're moving into the indigo and violet. We're moving into the third eye and the crown. So I listed a bunch of blue crystals there for you. I forgot to put turquoise in there, but turquoise is also a good crystal for the throat chakra. And then most of the blue stones there. Lapis lazuli I found to be very strong energy for the throat chakra, so it's very good if your throat is blocked. But use small ones, don't use lapis that is too big, because it can be quite overwhelming energy there. Animals, the bluebirds and blue jays, all birds will support the throat chakra because birds are the bridge between the air and the earth, between the heavens and the earth, you could say. The giraffe, why the giraffe? Well, think of the giraffe's neck. He's all about the throat chakra. That long neck that is tall enough to see what is coming. The wisdom there embodied in the giraffe's ability to be able to look above the common things of life and see into the future. Spiritually, the giraffe is an animal of great wisdom. The blue whale, all the power animals would be good for the throat because it's about standing your ground, expressing your truth. So all animals that stand in their truth, like the wolf, the whale, the lion, the big cats in general, all of those animals there are good for the throat chakra. Essential oils, these again are from the book by Anne Wellwood, Aromatherapy of the Soul. It's listed in the references at the end of this video. And so I just copied those down. I think I also may have gone online and looked for some as well, but I wrote the ones that made sense to me. And then musical notes in the solfeggio is 741 hertz, and the regular musical scale of G resonates to the throat. Foods that feed the throat chakra, obviously the blue foods. The picture of the tea there is tea with honey and lemon, because honey and lemon soothes the throat. That particular combination is very good for the throat if you have a sore throat. A sore throat being the result of blocked throat chakra very often. Why did I put potatoes, pink Himalayan salt, and eggs in a picture about the throat chakra? Obviously, they're not blue, but they contain large amounts of iodine. And iodine, we know, feeds the thyroid. So the thyroid needs a lot of iodine. And so we can turn to not those three foods exclusively, but you can do a search for foods that contain iodine, naturally occurring. You want naturally occurring iodine. You do not want table salt that has added iodine. Whenever vitamins and minerals are added, it's not necessarily from a very reliable source. Sometimes they're chemically manufactured rather than naturally occurring, and that's what we want to stay away from. Activities, expressing yourself, singing, dancing, talking, making a presentation. Any activity that gets you through your voice or your means of expression. If it's dancing, it might not be your actual voice. Anything that puts your creativity, your expression out into the world is supporting your throat chakra. Other qualities like having integrity. Although if you're familiar with my teachings, you know that I have strange views about integrity. Integrity doesn't necessarily mean what everybody thinks it does. But anyway, speaking your truth honestly and with grace, as I've said before, that is the best way to nurture your own throat chakra. And so this leads you to become the fullest expression of your authentic self. Speaking your truth quietly but with conviction, but without judging others for disagreeing with you. Being true to yourself. If everyone in the world is doing something and you don't want to do it, then don't do it. Ask for what you want and what you need, but without being whiny or putting demands on other people. Really listening to people. Everyone has their story. Again, this is something I'm hearing more and more lately in metaphysical circles and just as people are growing spiritually all around. We're becoming very conscious that we don't listen well. We want everybody to hear us, but we don't hear them. So it starts, if you like, they say charity begins at home. It starts with you improving your listening skills. When you hear other people, they are more likely to hear you. And in fact, when you hear other people, sometimes it becomes less important for them to hear you. because you start to realize that everyone has their story. And when you look at your story in comparison to other people's story, you realize how much other people have gone through, what they've suffered through in order to become who they are. And that deepens your compassion for them, actually, and makes you feel a bit less needy in yourself sometimes. So question everything you have been taught. Everything. What do you really believe, think, feel about the world and about yourself? I remember once being in a discussion with a woman about lettuce, of all things, and iceberg lettuce in particular. And she was a licensed nutritionist, and she believed that iceberg lettuce was of no nutritional value. And she said, because this is what I was taught in school. And I disagreed with her, because lettuce, any kind of lettuce, is a living plant, and all living foods are good for you, and all vegetables are good for you. So I disagreed strongly that just because iceberg lettuce doesn't have as many vitamins, apparent vitamins, as other foods, that it's still healthy for you. But she would not even entertain thinking about that, because it's what she was taught. She says, no, on my program, they specifically taught us. But who taught them, and where did they get their information from? Question everything. What do you really believe, think, feel? What do you really believe about the world and about yourself? What do you really think versus what you were told to believe and never questioned, versus what you were told to think and never questioned, versus what other people tell you you ought to feel, but deep down, you really don't feel. This is how you find your authentic self. The peregrine falcon is a bird that's often raised in captivity. So here I'm not talking about the wild ones, but I'm talking about the ones that are raised with the hoods on in captivity by an owner. And they're trained with food, so like most animals. So they can fly. The owner will let them go and fly, and they come back because they get a food reward. And the funny thing is that the peregrine falcon is one of the best hunters on the face of the planet. They are incredibly fast. They can catch prey in the air. They can catch other little birds in the air. They don't even have to swoop down and land to catch their prey. That's how fast they are. They are brilliant hunters. But they don't know it, because they've been trained in captivity, and all their food is given to them by their owner. And this makes me think about us and our dependency on the government, on the education system. We expect people to tell us, to give us, to coach us, to train us, to tell us how to live, to tell us how to be, to give us handouts. And we don't realize, we don't know, we don't understand what power we really have as individuals. It takes tremendous courage to go against what you think you have been taught to believe. This is why they call us the sheeples, because we cling together like sheep. We don't like to venture out on our own and be different and be ourselves. Well, some of us do. So it takes tremendous courage to look back at belief systems that you have been so trained into believing that you've never questioned them. And then when you question them and you start to realize that maybe that's not what you believe deep down, that's what you've been told to believe. It takes courage to abandon those beliefs and formulate your own. That is the challenge in the throat chakra, spiritual wisdom. Now we'll talk about some blue auras. Blue is generally a calm color. People who have achieved a blue aura are generally calm, good communicators, and often good healers, and often good listeners. So these two here, the one on the left, How do I know they're a good listener? Because they have this spiritual blue and also the higher indigo color. They got all the blues going on in this one, and the enlarged throat chakra is saying that they're also quite empathic. So as they're empathic people are usually good listeners as well. And on the right side, we can see I've talked about this in previous videos, the template of the indigo or crystal child, the template of the spiritual seeker, the awakening or the awakened soul, with the white spiritual energy there above the head and around the body. Also very many different degrees of blue. Now, this highly intuitive, peaceful soul is having a little bit of an unorganized day. Those chakras are a little bit out of whack. And this is always fairly typical of those people who are spiritually awakened, because we are so empathic. We are often tuning in to the collective energies, and that sometimes is overwhelming for us. So there's a little bit of overwhelm actually going on in that energy. But they know how to rebalance. I said a highly intuitive, peaceful soul. Peace, because the peace is on the left side. If you were to hold this aura up against a person, the flash of dark blue there is on the left-hand side of the picture, and that is the energy coming in. So peace is coming in. So this person knows how to balance themselves. Here we see an energy in perfect peace, all blue, even colors, same on the left as on the right, almost the same. There's subtle differences, and a well-balanced set of chakras here. So this is about as well-balanced as you become, in all one color, evenly distributed color throughout the aura, and evenly sized chakras. And then on the other side, going through a spiritual transformation, that's the green. And that green is on, if you're holding this aura up against the person, that green is on the right-hand side of the person. That's the energy they're presenting. So they are presenting new growth. They're going through a period of growth. They're pushing through into higher spiritual thinking. And you can see again the flash of very spiritual energy. Here it's more turquoise than white, but it's the classic template of the awakened soul, the indigo or crystal child. So the picture on the left, mastering how to relax and recharge. Chakras generally in good balance, not completely well balanced, but coming back into balance. And on the right side, putting out calm and peace with the dark blue and the indigo, very spiritually connected. A lot of indigo, a lot of violet in that aura. So using very spiritual person. And on the left side, coming in is that spiritual energy, the turquoise blue of the throat chakra. So in contrast, we see someone that hasn't quite managed it yet. So on the left-hand side, the mostly blue aura, we're seeing the energy of somebody who's been a little bit ruffled, but is coming back into their own colors. They're reassembling, recharging. Whereas on the other side, we see the chakras are out of balance. The sacral chakra is showing signs of fear and stress. The crown chakra is very small. They've disconnected. They're closed off now. They're going inside. They're trying to figure out where they are and what they're doing and what they're thinking. So they've been a little rattled. Too many colors in the aura. Green, purple, blue, yellow. There's some yellow in the aura and some turquoise. Spiritual person, but just having a rough time of things recently, and trying to figure out how to bring that balance back. Clearly they're in the blues, so clearly they have been in a calmer place, but they're not there right now. There are my references. And this is how you reach me. And so I hope you did enjoy what you learned here in this video. If you like this kind of content, please like, share, and subscribe. And I'll talk to you in the next one. Stay well now.